Hey everyone, welcome to my very first anime review, and there is a spoiler warning here just so you know. Now, I like anime, and to an extent I like romantic comedies in anime form, so after reading positive reviews left and right for Love Hina, I figured why not? So I checked it out, and let me tell you, I never, ever want anything to do with the series again. I know there are a number of fans out there who also swear that the manga is about a million times better than the show in every respect, but I honestly just don't care. I simply can't bring myself to go near the Love Hina universe again. For those unfamiliar, Love Hina occupies a subgenre of the romantic comedy anime known as the harem anime. In these shows, you typically have a central geeky male character who ends up being surrounded by women who are all inexplicably attracted to him, and hilarity ensues due to the inherently awkward, over-the-top situations that follow, ultimately leading to a predestined romance that builds between the guy and one particular girl. In this case, the story revolves around Keitaro Urashima, a kind but socially awkward young man struggling to get into Tokyo University, who, through a series of coincidences, ends up working as a manager for his family's business, a bathhouse that doubles as an all-girl apartment building. It's a pretty basic and obvious setup, but as I said before, I typically enjoy these kinds of shows. I even own several of them, but Love Hina is a true oddity. It goes through all the motions of a romantic comedy, minus any comedy or romance, or indeed any likable characters in its main cast. Instead, the main character, while not being a bad person in any sense of the word, is a completely spineless wimp. And the supposed comedy comes from the female cast constantly beating the shit out of him for any reason, and often for no reason at all. I'm not even talking about the typical kinds of misunderstandings that you see in these kinds of shows, though Love Hina is nothing if not predictable in that sense. But here, Keitaro also gets his ass handed to him for stuff like brushing against someone's arm, or if they're in a vehicle that's shaking around a lot and everyone starts falling into each other, he gets blamed for it even though every character in the scene should be able to tell it's an accident. Failing that, he also gets punched into the stratosphere if someone talks to him and he doesn't hear them, gets attacked with a sword anytime he dares to look at one particular character, and gets kicked in the head by another character who just thinks it's funny, and we're all supposed to believe that makes her adorable. Aww. And this happens every few minutes or even seconds. I honestly just felt numb after the first few episodes. And what's even worse, there are times when he actually does something good. Like one of the girls will trip or faint and he'll catch them to keep them from falling. But as soon as they recover, they start punching him again. Look, violent slapstick is one thing. Hell, it's a staple of the genre, but it needs context. If you're going to knock a guy through a wall or uppercut him into the next county, then there has to be something equally extreme going on with or near that character to justify doing that. I mean, this isn't about realism, it's just basic cartoon logic. Pummeling the crap out of a guy every time he blinks, just because you can, even when he does something good? That isn't funny, it's just empty and mean-spirited. As for the romance part of it, here's exactly what happens. In one episode, our lead character and one of the girls both go on separate vacations and by sheer coincidence end up running into each other. During this encounter, their glasses get broken so neither of them can tell who the other person is. Each now thinking that they're with a stranger, they end up spending a good deal of their trip together and find that, wonder of wonders, they actually enjoy each other's company. Of course, then their glasses get fixed, they see who they've been spending their time with, and the pointless beating continues. From this point on, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, to establish any feelings between these characters until the final few episodes. And by then, I should point out, the guy ends up with someone else he likes better and is infinitely more compatible with, but decides to dump her and go after the first girl, the one who constantly abuses and beats the shit out of him for no reason, because everyone else tells him to. I shit you not. And then he goes back to see the other girls, the ones who have also been abusing and beating the shit out of him for no reason, and suddenly they're all happy to see him because, why? It's pretty well documented throughout the course of the show that all these girls either hate him or see him as little more than a human punching bag at best. But because this is a harem anime and the genre requires the girls to actually have feelings of warmth and affection for the guy, this all just kind of happens at the end. As I said before, the show goes through all the motions, but there's no reason for anything to happen the way it does. It all just sort of ends up like this just because. and ultimately it ends up being nothing more than an exercise in frustration. Look, if the show had just been a misfire where we could all just agree that it wasn't very good, then fine. I wouldn't even be talking about it. In fact, I wouldn't have even bought it in the first place. But that's kind of the point here. It's really disturbing to see so many positive reviews out there for this show when there's literally nothing redeeming about it. Everywhere I looked for reviews, there were people saying, the characters are great, it's really sweet, it's really funny, it's a lighthearted romantic comedy. Really? Come on, people. Let's just recap here and think about this. The guy is a useless pile of shit who literally lies down to let everyone walk all over him. The girls are all psychotic demon bitches who overreact to everything. Altogether, they make up a group of the most unlikable protagonists I've ever seen. The comedy revolves around a running gag that gets so overused that it gets tired by the second episode, and the romance, if you can even call it that, gets tacked on for no other reason than to satisfy the requirements of the genre. It's non-existent until the last episode, and even then, can you honestly say that you're rooting for this guy to end up with anyone? Let alone this girl? Is there even a universe where this kind of relationship could be considered even remotely healthy or romantic for anyone? And I don't dislike romantic shows, but can there be some kind of standard where we can recognize when it doesn't work? You can't just show a bunch of raging assholes acting like bullies for 20 plus episodes and then suddenly make us care about them because they're staring longingly out of a window for 5 seconds. And you can't make us care about the central hero character when he never even makes the slightest attempt to stand up for himself. He apologizes for everything, even when he hasn't done anything. He never even attempts to dodge whenever someone tries to hit him, and he literally does anything that anyone else tells him to do. It was right around the time that he traded his clothes for a dress out in public, just because one of the girls asked him to. I finally just threw my hands up and said, fine. I don't care anymore. You know what? The next time that samurai girl swings her sword at you, try blocking it with your balls, because you don't fucking deserve them. Oh yeah, this really happens. Why? In this episode, the girl in question runs out of clean clothes and has to borrow a dress from a friend. So why does Keitaro agree to trade his clothes for the dress later? Because the girl in this scene does not feel comfortable dressing like a girl. Get the fuck over yourself. You're only putting up with a minor wardrobe change until the laundry gets done. By the way, this girl has been particularly horrible to Keitaro throughout the entire show. He doesn't owe her anything. He has no reason to agree to this, but he does it anyway to be nice. So what of it? Does this change their relationship? Does she feel indebted to him? Does she start treating him nicer as a result? No! She goes right back to treating him like garbage in the very next episode. Look, people, we all know there are better shows out there. Love, Hina isn't good. It's not even just okay. It really is terrible. It left a vile taste in my mouth that I can't even describe. It doesn't even seem like there was any effort to make this a cohesive show. It's filled front to back with filler material and treats its main plot as an afterthought. And yet, for some reason, it has this huge fan base. The DVD box even has the balls to describe it as a classic. If you haven't seen the show yet, please do not be taken in by this. If you're a fan, I'm not going to tell you not to be a fan, but I just wish that people would be more selective about this stuff. As it is, even most reviews from people who aren't hardcore fans still say that the show is pretty good if you give it a chance. Well, you know what? I did give it a chance. In fact, I sat and watched the entire fucking series because I didn't want to jump to any premature conclusions. I was really hoping that it would turn around and make me change my mind at some point. I wanted to like it, but it just didn't happen. Almost as if the creative team on the show had a grudge against me for even thinking such a thing. Anyway, I actually want to talk about this in a little more detail, but I need to go calm down for a bit. I'll see you in part 2.